Wow, stories.
Am I the idiot for confronting my husband about cheating only to find out he's reliving his childhood trauma? My husband has been acting odd lately. I first noticed it a few months ago when we were at the grocery store. He would buy things that are geared towards children, such as stuffed animals, candies that he previously said were only for children, things like that. He would go out of his way to get kids' meals at restaurants as well. But it wasn't every day, and it wasn't a lot, so I figured maybe he was finally giving in to what he had always wanted as a child. He had a rough time growing up. Both of his parents were hurtful and parentified him. He's currently in therapy for that. Then he started pulling away from me at home. He would start spending time in our bedroom with the door locked, saying he was napping, but I could hear voices in there. He stopped leaving his phone out and changed the password. When I asked about it, I had to use his phone to make a call while he was driving. He couldn't give me a straight answer. And he pushed me to go places without him, leaving him alone in the house. I thought he was cheating, and maybe the younger woman brought out new feelings in him, making him want to act like a kid again. So today I went out to the gym as I normally do, but this time I left my phone at home on purpose. I drove all the way there, hoping to make him think it was just a normal visit with the timing, and then I came back. When I walked in, the TV was on, playing a kid's cartoon, and I saw my husband sitting on the floor in an adult pull-up with a pacifier in his mouth. He turned around. I don't think he had heard the door open, and he looked terrified. That's the only word I can really use for it. He looked afraid of me. He pulled his pacifier out and tried to explain, but I told him that I needed some time before he could talk, and before he said anything, I was out the door. I'm at my sister's house now. I told her that we'd had a fight, but not what it was about. My husband has been texting me, asking to call or come home, but I haven't responded. I don't know what to do. Now for an update. I have texted my husband, letting him know that I'm going to stay the night at my sister's house. I told him that I'm not upset with him and would like to talk about what I saw, but want to ensure I'm in the right headspace to do so. We have both been having a stressful time of things, and I want to make sure I'm completely calm before meeting with him. I don't want to upset or hurt him further. I also reaffirm that I love him very much and that we are not getting a divorce. Sorry, those of you who were saying we should. I'm going to talk with him about everything first. Now, for another update. I headed home early this morning. We have had a conversation, and yes, you guys were right. He is an age regressor and has been participating in this for a few months now. His therapist recommended it to him as a way to reclaim his childhood. It has apparently been helpful for him, especially now that we have been trying for kids. He has struggled with thoughts of becoming like his parents, and this has helped him come to terms with those fears in a healthier way. He had been planning to tell me for a while, but had struggled with figuring out the right way. I did tell him about the suspected cheating, and we both had a good laugh about that. I'm glad that it was only this. I told him that I still love him, and while this was not the ideal way for me to find out, I would be willing to participate in this activity with him if he wanted me to. He said he would be comfortable with that, and we have plans to watch one of his shows together tonight and order in food for dinner. Thank you all for your advice, except those of you who called my husband a freak. It helped me put this all into perspective. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It's private regression. It doesn't sound like it's an intimacy thing, and obviously it's very hard to explain. Age regression is a way to cope with trauma, and is not the same as age play. Age play is the fetish stuff. I would highly recommend going to couples therapy. You're justified to be shocked by this behavior. It is unusual, and he knows that. But it sounds like something that may have been helping him cope with topics that have surfaced in therapy. Comment 2. I think it's either a method of recovering from childhood trauma or a fetish. In regards to childhood trauma, when I was 14, I would warm up milk and pour it in a water bottle with one of those babyish spouts. I started to crave a pacifier, but never gave in, and I tucked myself into bed and stroked myself. Looking back, it was a weird, soothing technique that I can't quite explain. All I know is it helped. As for the fetish, I know nothing of it, so can't comment. Now, for the update. Thanks for reading my last post. So, after our conversation, things seem to be getting back to normal, or at least a new kind of normal. We watched a show together that night and ordered in some pizza. It was a bit awkward at first, but we managed to laugh and enjoy ourselves. I could see how much it meant to him, and honestly, it was kind of nice to see him so relaxed and happy. The next day, I decided to take a day off work to spend more time with him and understand this new part of his life. We went to a park nearby, and he brought along a stuffed animal. It was a bit strange, but I was trying to be supportive. We talked a lot about his childhood and how this age regression thing was helping him. He opened up about some really painful memories, and I could see how much he was struggling with the idea of becoming a parent himself. He was terrified of repeating the cycle of abuse he went through. That evening, we had another heart-to-heart. He admitted that he was scared I would leave him when I found out. He said he felt ashamed and didn't know how to bring it up. I reassured him that I wasn't going anywhere and that we would figure this out together. We even made a plan to talk to his therapist together to get some guidance on how I could support him better. But then, something unexpected happened. The following day, I got a call from my sister. She sounded panicked and told me to come over immediately. When I got there, she handed me a letter she found in her mailbox. It was addressed to me, but there was no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper with a typed message. "You don't know the whole truth about your husband. Ask him about the other woman." My heart sank. I thought we had cleared up the cheating suspicion, but now this? I didn't know what to think. I decided to confront him about it that evening. When I showed him the letter, he looked genuinely confused and hurt. He swore he had no idea what it was about, and that there was no other woman. I wanted to believe him, but the doubt was creeping back in. We decided to go to his therapist together the next day. During the session, we brought up the letter. The therapist suggested that it might be someone trying to sabotage our relationship, especially since my husband had been making progress in his therapy. It made sense, but it didn't completely erase my doubts. Over the next couple of days, I noticed my husband becoming more withdrawn again. He was spending more time in our bedroom with the door locked. I didn't want to push him, but I was worried. One evening, I decided to check on him. I knocked on the door, and when he didn't answer, I opened it. He was sitting on the floor, but this time he wasn't in his age regression mode. He was holding a photo album, tears streaming down his face. I sat down next to him, and he handed me the album. It was filled with pictures of him as a child, most of them with his parents. He pointed to one picture of a woman I didn't recognize. He told me that she was his aunt, his mother's sister. She had been a big part of his life growing up, but she had a falling out with his parents and disappeared from his life when he was about 10. He had always wondered what happened to her. This revelation hit me hard. I realized that there was so much about his past that I didn't know. We spent the rest of the evening going through the album, and he shared more stories about his childhood. It was heartbreaking to hear, but it also made me understand him better. The next day, we decided to try and find his aunt. We did some online searches and managed to track down an address. It was a long shot, but we decided to go for it. When we arrived at the address, an older woman answered the door. She looked at my husband and immediately recognized him. It was an emotional reunion. She explained that she had tried to stay in touch, but his parents had cut her off completely. We spent the afternoon with her, and she shared more about his childhood and the family dynamics. It was clear that she had been a positive influence in his life, and reconnecting with her seemed to bring him some peace. She also mentioned that she had been sending letters to him over the years, but they had always been returned. This made us wonder if the mysterious letter was somehow connected to her attempts to reach out. As we drove back home, my husband seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. We talked about how we could include his aunt in our lives moving forward. It felt like a new chapter was beginning for us. But before I wrap this up, there's one more thing. When we got home, there was another letter waiting for us. This time it was from his aunt. She had written it after we left, explaining more about the family history and some secrets she had kept to protect him. It was a lot to take in, but it also brought us closer together. So that's where we are now. We're still figuring things out, but I feel more hopeful than I have in a long time.